Hi, welcome to CS in 10 minutes. Today I'm talking about Dust 2 T-side. I'm going to cover as much as I can in 10 minutes. First off, we'll talk about a default versus a rush. So generally speaking, you get a lot of rushes, especially at low levels, and they can be incredibly good. A dynamic rush with lots of util, effective util is really good. However, as you get higher up in the ranks, up to maybe about MGE, DMG, stuff like that, the CT's util usage and their aim gets better, and you'll find that your rushes start to get shut down a lot more. And as a result of that, you need to have a backup plan. The backup plan is always going to be holding a default. So, how do you hold a default on Dust 2? This is my take. Take it as you will, but you have 5 players obviously. First player is going to be your AWP player, or scout. He's going to hold mid. He can get away with an AK, it's not ideal, but he can. His job is to get as much information about the CTs as possible, maybe get through the door, but you want him to be counting how many players cross, whether or not there's smoke. You want him to be watching in case they push up mid or they try and get somebody into lowers. That's his job. He's an information gatherer. He can also get information about what weapons the enemy are using, how much utility they're using, bits like that. Second 2 players both come to tunnels. First player is going to be the upper tunnels player. He's going to hold to make sure nobody pushes. He can hold from basically anywhere. Like he can play angles like this, he can play angles around the pillar, he could even play close if he had an SMG. What he doesn't want to do is start peeking these angles, not peeking towards the box, peeking down there, or getting aggressive here, because you don't want to give away a free kill to the CTs. He can even come and play over here, he can play behind the boxes here, which is alright, or he could play here, but this isn't ideal and I'll show you why in a second. The third player, he's going to come down into lowers, and his job is to start to clear these angles. As you come around this corner, make sure you clear that angle there, because the AWPer should be calling it, obviously, but he might have missed it, and people love to sit there and just shoot you as you come down the corner, because a lot of people don't expect it, and a lot of people have this false sense of security because they think the AWPer's watching middle, and quite often he's missed it. Clear that as well, and your job is to stop them pushing short. You can jump up on this box to keep an eye on it. It's always good to have a decent weapon, so a rifle or SG, something like that, just to be able to zoom in a little bit, because that's a really difficult angle to actually hit. And what you're doing is you're stopping them pushing up. You're also going to be helping out your upper player, so if he takes contact you can always come and rotate to here, which is why you don't really want your upper player to be stood here, because you can't help if he is, but if your upper player is stood anywhere else, and you can come up and you can give him a hand and trade out if you need to. The lowest player is also going to have another very important role in a minute, which I will come on to when we get there. The other 2 players, they're going to be coming to long A and top mid. So what you player 4, let's say, he's going to be holding long doors, but what you don't want to do is hold angles like this, or maybe on the boxes. A lot of people hold this. They're not ideal, because when the CT is pushing, if they are pushing, they can get a kill here, or potentially a kill here, and there's no way to trade them. And if you had an AWPer holding this angle, then yes you could, but it's very difficult to trade them. So what you want to try and do is hold an angle like this, or maybe a little bit less close in, or over here, basically, so the CT has to come out to about here to see you. So even if he kills you, one of your teammates, either the AWPer or whoever's playing top mid, can rotate round and try and get that trade kill. That's really important. And the other player is going to be playing top mid, and your job is to hold an angle, so something like this maybe, or even more passive, so that you can support your long player if somebody does push, because that's more likely, but also what you're doing is you are stopping anybody aggressing up middle. The AWPer will be able to call if they come mid doors, but what quite often happens is after a smoke like that, or they'll bounce one off the boxes like that, not like that, not like that either. But anyway, it blocks off the AWPer and they'll try and aggress. So your job is to stop that happening. The other thing that they can do is they can push up short. The AWPer can't see this, so if anybody's walking up here, the AWPer just won't know. So your job is to stop that happening. What you don't want to do as a top mid player is peek this angle here like this, because any AWPer who's worth his salt on CT will just sit down there and take your head off every single time. So this angle is not your friend. Don't hold it. If you need to jump across, you can do that, but yeah, don't peek this angle. And that's your initial default, so you've taken long A control, you're holding that, you've taken tunnels control, you're holding that, and any aggression you start to punish. Then what you want to do is you want to start working up short A and getting control over all of this area. And once you've done that, you'll start to make the CTs feel very uncomfortable, and you'll have a lot more options as to how you're going to use that position. And you have a lot more knowledge because you can start to hear people rotating through CT spawn. So how do you do that? This is when the lowers player comes into his own, because he is going to be doing probably two pieces, maybe even three of utility that you need. Firstly is an Xbox smoke. Now you can throw this down here really easily, just walk backwards and throw it. Or you can throw it from top mid. There's loads of lineups around here, or the one that I usually throw is from up here. I won't go into the lineups. If you need them, Google them or ask me. Anyway, you want to throw that so that you can have two players, and it's probably going to be either the long A player and the mid player if the AWP is rotated, or it's going to be the AWP player and the mid player, or it could even be the lower player and the mid player. They're going to start to work their way down catwalk, and probably won't be the lower player actually. And they can flash off here if they're worried about the CTs aggressing, clear these angles, and then work up to about here, at which point the lower player is going to give them a pop flash to get onto onto short stairs. And the way that he does that, it's really easy, it's loosey goosey. So basically you just come forwards, one step forwards from the box, and you're going to be aiming at the top of that, just so your flash doesn't hit the arch. So you aim at the top of there, a bit like that. And that pop flash will blind anybody who's playing here, blind anybody who's playing here. It's not quite so great, but they're going to have to turn away. Depending on what angle people up here are playing, it might not get them if they're just playing a really tight angle, but they will probably have to fall off. And the other one to be aware of is people playing up here. It will probably blind them, but not for very long. So they might need to just need to be aware of it. It's a pop flash, but they will probably have to fall off. But just be aware of those angles. And then once you've taken this area, what you don't want to do is start contesting site, because as soon as you've taken that control, they will start to have their players start to look exactly there. They'll probably throw some counter utility as well, so don't contest site. And you probably also don't want to be in this sort of area, or even up here, within the first 5 or 10 seconds, because the first thing the CTs will do when they take short control is they'll start to throw some utility, especially these sort of grenades. The amount of times I've been stood on stairs, or there have been several of us stood on stairs, and we've taken 50 to 100 damage just by good utility use. It's just not worth it. Just step back. You don't need to play up there just yet. You can wait. And once you've got short control, you've got a hell of a lot of map control, and you've got a lot of information. Hopefully you've either got a pick here, or they've aggressed onto B tunnels or long, and you've got a pick there or there, or even your AWPer in mid, he might have got a pick too, and then you can work off that pick, and it's all about dynamism then, it's all about speed. So let's say you've got a pick in mid, the AWP has, and you know from your AWP's information there is a maximum of 2B. Maybe they've thrown utility at long, or you've seen somebody drop off A, or you've heard somebody over on site. Passing back all that information is really important. So you know there's a maximum of 2B, and maybe even one's playing CT. So you've already got 2 players up short, 1 player in lowers, and your AWPer's pushed down. So you can literally start and throw this utility straight away, and as soon as you're out, it's important that you go together. So you've got 2 or 3 players, you don't want the AWP pushing first if possible, and then you've isolated one, maybe 2 players on B. You've got a guy in uppers and you're all ready to split, but it's important that you get out fast. That long A player, he might be holding an angle up here by now, which won't allow him to get down there quickly, which means the player in lowers and the 2 players on short, they need to be on the ball and moving fast in order to do that. Likewise, if you get picks on B, maybe they push uppers, and you know from your information that there's maximum of 1 other. If you've got your lower player down here who's ready to go, these guys could push in together, and then you could throw your counter utility, so your smoke and your flash here to stop the other team rotating. But that's how you play Dust 2, or that's how you should play a default on Dust 2. And it's relatively safe, and you get a lot of control, and that's it. Good luck, have fun.